Our next speaker is Stan Smith, who's our program manager at IBM, who's in charge of delivery. He'll be talking about Gen AI and how it's improving the usability of Maximo and its processors. So thank you, Stan.
Good morning. So, topic we talk about more than anything else when we're with customers now is generative AI. It is a part of, very much a part of our world at this point in time. And with that, it is something that is what I consider a fundamental tool that we can leverage within MAS. Okay? It's not its own entity. It is just it is the latest tool to leverage within the system. But it is a tool that's far more powerful than anything we've had before. So what I'm going to talk a little bit about is kind of our objectives and kind of how we're going about this, some of the use cases that are already embedded in the 9.1 version of the software, a little bit about where we're going with it, what's the next things that you can expect, and then a little bit into the guts of it as to, how does it interrelate with watsonx and all these different pieces. So that's our objective in 40 minutes. So let's see where we go. I like interactive discussions. So if I hit a point and you wonder what the hell I'm talking about, just raise the hand or stand up and ask the question. I'll repeat it to the rest of the audience. We don't need to worry about microphones and all. If you can shout it to me, I'll relay it back. But this is really your session, and I'd be shocked if people didn't have questions on the Gen AI side, because I have questions every day, and it is different today than it was 3 months ago, which is very different than it was 6 months ago. So this is a very dynamic space. So with that, as we look at the space that we're in, and, this objective here around asset-intensive organizations, the knowledge and productivity gaps is not a secret. And we have a wide variety of things that we're using to address that. If you look at a mobility solution with information that's accessible to the technician so that they have more content as they're in front of it, that's a tool to help in this area. If you look at condition, which was a very good presentation that was just done, it's another way to kind of assess the equipment and figure out an action to take. So all of these are efforts around knowledge and productivity on what I'm working with. So these statistics and all, the turnover, we've all talked about that. We've all talked about how many PMs we have and run to failure and how can I progress off of that. We've talked about, the lack of trusted or relevant information. So these statistics are not surprising, okay? It's also not surprising that the pace of our work is increasing. The focus of us leveraging generative AI is very simply focused around trying to deliver higher quality outcomes faster than humanly possible. So if we look at generative AI, what it does is it consumes massive amounts of information and it generates some type of insight or outcome based off of a model that's been defined. All right? Now, that's no different than you doing 20 printouts, spreading them out on the table, and taking the time to figure out how they interrelate with each other. Okay? So this is not a new paradigm. Okay? It is just faster. It's more consistent. And that is the very simple reason as to why this is a better tool than we've had before. Now, what the heck? Where did that chart come from? That's not, that is the chart. They fixed my chart. I'm happy. So generative AI or AI, let's not go generative AI. AI is something that if we look at any computer system, the algorithms within there have a set of combining a set of things together to create some type of outcome. And in a sense, these algorithms are the basis for this. Now, AI has been around for a while, and some of the interesting things, it went back, I have a colleague that's got a picture of a bunch of the guys at one of the universities that were kind of started the AI concept back in the 50s. Kind of a cool picture. But we've got a couple things that were maybe noticeable within the world. We had IBM against Kasparov from a chess standpoint, okay? That was in 96, okay? We had Ken Jennings playing against Watson in Jeopardy, okay? Fairly well known in the US, maybe worldwide and all, but that was done right in the 2010 timeframe. And things were just kind of moving along at kind of a slow and steady pace. And then, starting in the 2020 timeframe and all, everything started to change, okay? And the reason it started to change is foundation models, okay? If we look at how AI worked before, you all start from ground zero, okay? Because we talked about, I need to build a model. I need to somehow indicate the things that I want to factor in, and then the things where I get some type of insight from that. So that's really building a model. And the tools there were machine learning, all right? I needed a massive amount of data to run through there so that I can start to simulate and all based off of that data what to expect over time, all right? So along came foundation models, okay? Foundation models are nothing more than that initial base level training so that when I bring it into my environment, all I'm doing is a delta level of training based off of the unique problem I am trying to address and the unique data that I have around that, okay? So these models, these foundation models, were in a couple of key areas, okay? One or two of you have either used ChatGPT or Copilot and all, and those are using a large language model, okay? Everything in there is based off of language. And so language is the first and by far the most mature of the foundation models. And if we look at what we did in the out-of-the-box use cases that we have for Maximo Application Suite, they are all based upon large language models. It is by far the most mature of any, okay? There are a couple others that we care about because Maximo has a lot of information. There is a lot of language in Maximo, okay? There's also a lot of images associated with our assets, okay? So the image model, which is used in MVI, is another of the foundation models. And the third one that's most relevant is a time series data model, which if you look at the readings you get off of a meter and all, or readings off of a sensor, it is a measurement point and a timestamp associated with it. So that's time series data. Those are the most fundamental. There's, geospatial, there's a few others that are out there and all. But what this did is, these are large base models and all that have a lot of that, what I would call initial training that's been done, so that when I have a new problem that is maybe language oriented, I provide a set of prompts to this and maybe a set of data points to it, and it tailors a model for the problem that I want to address with language, all right? So with that, this is all about time to value, nothing more, okay? This could have been created, you could have started from ground zero and built up your own model around it and all, but this is all about time to value, okay? So let's go a little further. So we have this great tool in front of us. The real question is, what are we going to do with it? What's kind of our founding focus and all within Maximo? Because there's a bunch of different ways that we could leverage this, okay? And so with that, we have a couple of guiding principles as we pick the use cases that we're going to deliver out of the box. First of all, we don't want to have to require that you have a data scientist in the house to be able to leverage the capability, okay? It's got to be focused on serving the end user without a large requirement for you to have knowledge that maybe is not a part of what you normally have in the house. Language, I want to be able to interact with it, okay? I don't want to be required to do a set of SQL queries and all to figure out how I can ask it the right question. I want to talk to it, okay? I want to talk to it with my fingers, okay? That's the majority of it, but you can do speech to text if you want in there. But I want to interact. I want to say, show me all the pumps that have a condition worse than 50 in this location, okay? Because that's what I care about, all right? So that's how I want to ask the system for something. So language interaction is a critical part of it and all. We want to embed it into the Maximo UI, okay? I don't want to do the swivel world where I swivel over and use my generative AI thing, I get some type of insight, and then I swivel back and I type something or initiate something in Maximo. There's not a lot of efficiency with that and all. There's no integration of that. So we want to embed it in the UI, embed it in the flows. So we all have heard about how many GPUs are being consumed and how much energy is being consumed with AI. We also know that once I start to play with something, Lord knows what I'm going to do with it, and Lord knows what people are going to try to do with it. So there's got to be a level of control. And you want to decide what users have access to it, and you also want to decide what use cases you're going to enable for your organization. Because usage of generative AI is going to use MAS app points, okay? A user logs on, I use MAS app points. I install something in my environment, some of those require you to use MAS app points. I consume AI capabilities or services and all. I'm going to utilize MAS app points, okay? So you can try this out at any point in time because you all have MAS app points. Those of you on MAS, those of you that aren't, hurry over. But with that, it consumes MAS app points. So it's straightforward for you to leverage it, but you got to be able to control it because you don't want the AI to overwhelm everything else, all right? Your data is your data. Your data will never contribute to one of the foundation models. Your data will never contribute to anything that IBM does in the AI space, all right? So what will happen is, as I mentioned, and one of the things that we talk about is the problem code, okay, problem code analysis. What you're going to do is you're going to pick out at least 10 problem codes that you leverage in your organization, and you're going to, as part of the training, you're going to provide that. We're going to leverage that against the foundation model, and you'll be delivered a model that is based off of your usage of it. Your data will then be scrubbed and all, and there will be no usage of that data ever again, okay? So that's the policy within IBM, and it's documented within the watsonx side of your data is your data. And then security, compliance, and ethics is double our highest priority, so it's clearly a high priority. So let's talk about AI in general. Okay, I just went 2 slides, but we're going to actually jump to 2 slides because it's the same thing. We've been using AI for quite some time. I did a presentation earlier on field service management, okay? I did a presentation earlier on APM and AIP. All of those are using a level of AI, all right? So the optimization engine that's leveraged for those is a generation of AI that is well used. It's constraint-based programming. So we have a lot of things around work planning optimization and work scheduling. Those are kind of in white because they're more of a traditional use of what we call traditional AI. We're not supposed to use the term, but I don't know what term I'm supposed to use, so we call it traditional AI. Generative AI is where we started to introduce. So the ones in blue are what's available to you out of the box within MAS 9.1 that are using generative AI. And so with that, our objective is to give you a set of out-of-the-box experience that you can choose to leverage if it provides value to your organization. So we'll go a little bit deeper into these. And so we started usage of AI and delivering out of the box in the 9.0 release, okay? That was focused on the initial usage around what we call classification prediction. And that was primarily around problem codes. So what you'll do in the 9.0 and now in 9.1 you've got available to you is you're going to provide a set of problem codes that are used in your organization. It's going to train a model against that. That model will then be leveraged against, you'll be able to do a set of queries or indicate where you want to analyze the problem codes and all. And it will go in and identify where you've got either missing problem codes or you've got problem codes that are inconsistent with the work that was accomplished for that particular work order. All right? straightforward use case, all right? We are not sending things to the moon or whatever. We have straightforward things that we do within Maximo. So this classification prediction, where it extended in 9.1 is you pick the field that matters to you. Any field that you want within your data and all. Train the model against that, and you can use the classification prediction against that. It is a data quality tool. And with that, pick what matters to your organization. What is it that you look at most, or what is the data element that guides the decisions that you're making more than anything? And that's where you apply it to start with, and then start to work your way through it, through your system. So this is a data quality focus. Similarity analysis. Similarity analysis is, I look at your work orders, and I determine whether you've got clumps of them that are similar to each other based off of criteria that you set. So you can decide a couple of different things off of it. Are they duplicate work orders? If so, it's actionable. Every bit of AI that we leverage is actionable. Okay, we're not just showing pretty things here. I'm going to do something once I get this result to me. All right? So duplicate work orders and all, I can go in and I can eliminate the duplicates in there and just keep one of them and attach information so that I know which duplicates were associated with that and all. And I go from 5 to 1 work order, for example. I can also bulk things together so that like problems and all, or like location, whatever it might be, can be grouped together so that similar work can be done at the same time. Previous presenter, and it would be so much better if I remembered his name, but anyway, previous presenter talked to you about some of the work that they did around condition-based maintenance and all. And with that, one of the fundamentals of condition-based maintenance is the failure mode and effect analysis, which is I look at an asset, I determine what are the most prevalent failures associated with that asset, and what are the indicators that I'm getting close to failure, all right? We got a big library of those called reliability strategies that you all have access to in MAS. It's got 800 plus asset types in there, 5,000 plus failure modes associated with them. It's got PMs in there, it's got job plans in there and all. But 800 plus doesn't cover all the assets that might exist in an organization. So with that, if you've got an asset class that is most critical to you, and you want to put some type of failure mode analysis against it so you can leverage that to start to determine the condition of that asset. AI was used so that we can make that a straightforward and a guided process using content that exists from multiple different sources so that you can generate this failure mode analysis and the underlying usage of that in hundreds of hours to minutes. So my favorite story on here is a large manufacturer based in Japan that starts with the letter T, okay? And they are a user of Maximo. They had a couple critical assets that they wanted to start to do condition-based maintenance on. And their approach is they brought 30 engineers together into a single room for 3 days to build up an FMEA for that asset class, all right? They then leveraged our tooling for another asset class, and I would say minutes might be a stretch on there and all, but it was far less than 30 people for 3 days that got flown into one location. So this is a tool, okay? A tool for you to go in and build this up for content that matters to you. We've talked about MVI, or you've heard about MVI, Maximo Visual Inspections. Leveraging an image to do an analysis to determine whether there's defects that should be evaluated for an asset, okay? All the manufacturers are leveraging this tooling right now for doing quality inspections off of the manufacturing line. So that's a straightforward use case. It's either red or green, all right? I do the analysis. I determine whether there's a defect within there. If I have no defects, it's green, and it keeps going down the manufacturing line. If I have a defect, it identifies what the defect is, allows me to go in and fix it, and then it rolls down through the line again. Okay? So that's one use case. That applies to manufacturers. Not everybody in this room is not a manufacturer. All right? Majority of what our life is around asset inspections. I'm using Maximo for a set of assets that I leverage. And so with that, the barrier to entry of using something like MVI is how much it takes to train the model for the asset that you want to do analysis off of. And so with it, one of the model areas that, or foundation models that I mentioned is the image library. And so with that, you've got a very straightforward way to label and fine-tune using foundation models so that you can create a base model, an analysis model for MVI in a matter of minutes to hours in all time frame, so that you can start to use it and try it out as far as your means to do inspections. And so those are some of the base use cases that are there in out-of-the-box 9.1 that you can take advantage of. They're indicative of where we're going to go, and I'll talk about that a little bit more. So I've already talked about this. This is showing, and I probably should have talked to each of these on the slide so you could have seen the visual. But this is the visual for classification prediction, which is data prediction. All right, so this is the one of missing or incorrect failure codes. Similarity analysis, this is where I group my similars, determine whether I've got a group that I care about, so I want to deal with them as a group, or whether I've got a set of duplicates within there. I've got different analysis that I can do off of that. And all these slides will be in the decks that get sent out. This is the room of 30 for 3 days and all, down to one dude in the back office doing a FMEA build. It might be more than one. So let's talk about the Maximo Assistant. I mentioned earlier that natural language interfacing is the way that we want to be able to bring about to you so that you can interact with your system to get information out of your system so that you can make series of decisions based off that information. So all this information is already in your system. Okay? You can grep your way through it and find your way through it and, accumulate this and all. And you've been doing it for quite some time. You're able to do that. You're able to go in and look at different locations or different asset classes and all, and you can dig into that data. Okay? The Maximo Assistant is enabled against the objects in Maximo. Okay? We've got work order objects. We've got asset objects. We've got tickets or inspection type objects and all. We've got supply chain or inventory objects and all. So the first ones that we focused on were asset and work. We'll be able to extend it to any object within Maximo. All right? And the objective here is to be able to train it so that the types of analysis and questions that I have can be satisfied using the assistant. All right? So assistant is, it's a little indicator in the bottom of one of the screens. I'll show it a little bit later here. But it is primarily a natural language experience that you can use to access data, okay? And it'll be expanded as we go forward. So let me talk a little bit about where that is. So with that, the types of requests here are simple things like how many work orders are there for each problem code at Bedford? Any of you that have been around Maximo or seen a demo, you know that Bedford is the site that's used probably more than anything because that's where the demo data library was, and Bedford is where MRO software was. And so that's why Bedford is well known to everybody. Now, the things that we enabled in the 9.1 is really around queries, okay? So we have an AI assistant that is able to do queries, intelligent queries, against data and objects that exist within Maximo. And so with that, we've got database retrieval, some level of analytic insights, and then interactive results. So when I go off and do this query, okay, of how many work orders, I get my table, all right? Those of you that have seen work queues in MAS, it's a work queue, all right? Those of you that have done saved queries and all, it's a work queue is a fancier version than the results you get from saved queries. I can hit this little icon here and expands into a table, and I have access to every bit of that information and all, and I can take direct action on it, okay? Everything's actionable within here. So I ask it, get my result, and I do something based upon it. So let's talk about a few of the scenarios. with that, we are not intending to be a chatbot. Okay, we all have a bunch of chatbots out there and everything where I can ask it questions, I get different answers back. This is all intended to be actionable. The first things that we're doing is searches, okay? But as we go along over time, and over time is the next release here, is I want to do summarization, okay? What work was previously done for asset pump P0001, okay? So I want to be able to summarize from a long period of time so that I can get some level of insight from that. I want to be able to take actions, okay? I want to tell it to go in and approve all the work orders that are on this particular query and just have it go off and do it for me, all right? So I want actions in there. I want searches, and I want to expand my searches. I also want to get some analysis and all, which I've already got, which is what are some of those problems for pump, asset type, blah, blah, blah. And so I've got a set of these that are available in the 9.1, a set of them that will roll out. Now, and I've got 13 minutes. Man, I'm not going to get through all this. A couple things to recognize is we're going to talk a little bit about agents within here. So I've got a series of slides and all that kind of go through a set of examples of what you can do right away, all right? So this is your return reading, so you can see all of these here. But there's 4 or 5 different use cases that are just examples of what you can do in the 9.1 timeframe using the assistant. So what's coming? And with that, a couple of different things. I'm going to go to the last one here, which is agentic workflows, all right? Y'all have seen maybe an advertisement or two where Matthew McConaughey and others are sitting in a restaurant or whatever, or Idris Elba is sitting there, and they're talking about agents and agentic workflows. Everybody loves an agent. It's the cool phrase now, all right? So, and agents are real, okay? What's behind each of the use cases that we did in 9.1 is an AI agent, all right? Now, AI agents are straightforward when you've only got one agent that you need to access. So if I'm in there and I'm in the work orders and all, I've got one agent that I'm going to leverage for my similarity analysis. If I'm in the assistant and I'm asking questions of it, I've got one agent, the query agent, okay? The problem that is being solved, and this world is evolving very quickly here, and we're solving things in really short amount of times, is when I ask questions, I need somebody to figure out whether it's a query, summarization, or whether I'm asking for an action to be done, okay? And so with that, we're working on, we call it a meta agent or whatever, but it is a way to be able to take a question and parse out what are they asking to do, all right? So if that question is a query, it's all queries and all, life is straightforward. But I showed you the things that I want to do off of the agent. I need to figure out whether it's a query, whether it's summarization, whether it's a search, whether it is some type of action that I want to take so that the agent, or so that I go off and do the right thing off of the assistant, all right? So the other thing is that with agentic workflows, if I take something like condition-based maintenance, and I've got a chart in the deck that kind of shows 4 different stages, condition insights, being able to determine what the right type of work is, all of those are agents that are going to run. And if you think about that process, an agent is nothing more than a vehicle to allow me to deal with one of the decision points in a process that already exists within Maximo. So whether it be condition, whether it be work, whether it be inventory, there's a series of agents that can come together. You can decide which of those you want to take advantage of, and that creates an agentic workflow, which means I need to have a way in which my agents are consistently created so that I can plug them into a workflow that ties into the process that you are leveraging. And all this needs to be done behind the scenes because you don't want to be an expert in all these things. So with that, that's our focus on agentic workflows. We're also bringing the assistant to a mobile device. So our Maximo Mobile, Joao, who's sitting over there quietly because he's thinking, he is bringing generative AI to the mobile experience that your users are living with or moving towards. And so with it, it's one of our heavy focuses because once you open this up to your technicians, you've got a much wider set of people that are potentially leveraging the AI in there. So it needs to be able to scale. It needs to be able to work on a mobile device. It needs to navigate between the data I have on the device versus the data that might be at the server. And it needs to be action-oriented. So when we talk about the actions and all, you can see your technicians maybe doing a set of queries, asking questions. They might want to summarize what's happened in the past, but they probably want to take a set of actions and all. So with that, this meta agent and all the things that we're working on are going to be critical there. So question and answer. It's called Retrieval Augmented Guidance. RAG, I think, is the pattern that we use in AI talk and all. But it is really that interactive back and forth and all, where I'm leveraging the AI to kind of go back and forth with a series of questions, series of answers as I go forward and do more of a diagnosis or a detailed analysis. And so with that, that's one of the things that we're focused on. So over on the side are each of the different use cases, a small subset of the use cases that we're focused on for the 9.2 timeframe. So this one, look at that. It'll give you an idea as to where we're going. Agents, nothing more than where agents are different than traditional algorithms is that there's an iteration level within the logic within there. So a typical algorithm is if then else, all right? Some fancy variations of that and all, but it's an if then else world. I've got a specific thing that I'm doing in my algorithm. Here, we've got a set of actions where, I've got things where I can reason, try to figure out what's being asked of me. I can take an action. I can observe whether we think that addressed what I'm looking for, and I can iterate through multiple times until I get a result that's acceptable, and then I bring that to the user or to the initiator, all right? So it is that sequence, which is why agents are unique from anything else that we've had, because I've got a mechanism in which I can define this three-part loop and allow it to be interactive, and I can define the criteria that I need that agent to meet, all right? So this is, so as I mentioned, agentic workflows. There are many of our processes that have multiple decisions as part of it. This is an example, just to kind of bring it home for you, of condition-based maintenance. So I can have an agent, and I want to get insights as to what's happening with the condition of that asset. I want to go in and try to figure out what is the right action to take based upon that condition and get some help from the system as to what that is. I also might have smart alerts in there, which is an agent that's just constantly running, okay? And when a certain condition is met, I bring that forward so I can take action on it. Some of these are initiated by the user saying, I want to go in and have you analyze this. This is something that's just running so that I've got criteria. You all might have cron tasks. You might have automation scripts that might do a rudimentary level of this. This is more of an agent on there. And then a set of automation based off of when I get an alert, do this action. Don't just tell me about the alert. I'm comfortable now that you know how to figure out the alerts I care about. And I've done this enough times that I know what action I'm going to take depending on the alert. Now that I'm comfortable with the AI, automate it and just do the action yourself. All right? So this is an idea of what we're going through right now as we evaluate each of the processes in Maximo. So the insights that I talked about, so this is the assets and locations dashboard. Okay, this is something where your asset manager, reliability engineer, we just had the presentation that talked about APM. We talked about the different indicators of the health here. And with that, I don't want to initiate it all the time. I'd like to define for the system what I want it to do. And when I come in the morning or with something's really urgent, I'd like the system to indicate to me What is something that you've asked me to focus on that now has occurred, all right? So I've got a condition insight summary. Let me see how many, I don't have much more beyond that and all, but the idea there is that I tell the system what I care about, it brings it to me at whatever time I want, and I can take action on it immediately. Let the system work for me. So, what's the foundation? I am going to we're going to build out the assistant, we're going to have a whole bunch of embedded experiences. That's this chart, all right? And I'm conscious of the fact I've got 3 minutes. So what are the fundamentals of this? We have MAS, we have the AI service. So when we did this in 9.0, we had to kind of create initial infrastructure and linkage for the couple of use cases that we had. We had an MVI use case, and we had that classification, the problem code one. We had two different paths that we created in the system that eventually got to watsonx and kind of stored what they needed. When we look at that large list of use cases that we want to do, that ain't going to work going forward. So what we did is we created an AI service. AI service, I consolidate all this. I got an API interface in there so that I can go in and define use cases. And we're opening the AI service up so that our partners and customers can create their own agents and go in and leverage our AI service. If you don't want to manage the back end going out to watsonx and all, you can leverage our AI service. We'll take care of all the pieces around that, and you can integrate it into your system. To be able to enable that, though, we need a way in which we can be very clear on how we build our agents. There are only a couple of key approaches that are used in the industry, and the biggest one is MCP. And so MCP is the means that we use, and you as partners, this is more for you. You that want to create your own agents as a customer, you'll care about this also. But MCP is the standard. We build all of our agents off of MCP. So if you build your agent off of MCP, it will be consistent with how we built our agents, which then allows me to leverage a tool like watsonx Orchestrate, which has an MCP server in it, which allows me to create a workflow in which my agent can be included with the out-of-the-box agents that we do in Maximo. Or I can create an agent for my ERP system because supply chain's what I care about, and I can plug that agent into an agentic workflow that ties together with the work being done in Maximo. So this is where the big scramble is in the industry right now, to be clear on what protocol different people are using. This is by far the most common and the one that's winning in the market. And MCP servers and all is what's being leveraged. watsonx Orchestrate, we have an embedded MCP server in Maximo, but it interfaces with watsonx Orchestrate. So the pieces that I mentioned, AI service, integrated AI, it is what we leverage to be able to control the interactions between my user experience and the back end that's needed to support that user experience. watsonx is the AI platform that we use within Maximo and we use within IBM. It is industry ready, it's proven, and it is the only thing that I will use, okay? Now, it has a whole lot of linkage out to open source. For those that you that pay attention within the industry, we know that we have now a relationship with Grok, which is an underlying engine. We have we utilize things like the Hugging Face library of models and all. So there's a lot of things that we're doing that are very open here. But with it, we use watsonx. Orchestrate is what we use for orchestrating the AI agents. And MCP, as I mentioned before, is the underlying protocol that we use for the agent building. So that is there just so that we have indicators to everybody as to what we care about. AI service I've talked about. watsonx I've talked about as far as what we do within it and how we leverage that for our AI platform. watsonx Orchestrate I talked about because that's my engine to orchestrate a workflow. And MCP I've talked about. So I think in closing, since I'm already at time and it's about to be lunchtime, AI is a tool. It is only a tool. It allows us within Maximo to do a set of things that would have taken significantly longer for us to ever accomplish. It is a tool that is evolving on a daily basis. And with that, it's going to be bumpy along the way, and we will be evolving continuously along the way. If I come to you and talk to you in a year, some of the underlying things behind this and all will have evolved, okay? There may be another protocol for agents that has come about, and we'll tell you how to convert your MCPs into that, or whatever it might be, okay? There'll be, DeepSeek's model came up, and everybody thought, oh my God, the world has changed and all. And then shortly after, there was another model that was more efficient. So our model approach is going to change. But from a Maximo side, we are very straightforward. We're going to provide a natural language interface to the data that exists within Maximo, allow you to extend that interface to other data sources if you want to, allow you to extend the capabilities that the agent has, okay? We will have agentic workflows, or we will have a set of use cases in which we leverage agents to help them be more efficient or more effective. We will be transparent as hell about those. I've got the first wave of those on the chart, and we will talk to anybody about them because all we're trying to do is make these processes more efficient. So we've got a natural language interface that's extensible. We've got a set of process steps that we are going to do with it. And with that, we have the ability to kind of plug these into a workflow, and it will be a mechanism in which we can interact with other systems. We encourage our partners to build out a set of agents that we're not doing, because we will not be successful in this if we're the only one building agents. So it is a way in which we can all kind of contribute to a way to make the processes more efficient overall. So that's what we're doing in AI. The 9.1 release was big as far as what we have. We're going to continue to release agents, and we'll expand the assistant in the interim between the 9.1 release that came out in June 25 and the 9.2 release that comes out in June 26. This thing is innovating so quickly that we can't wait on a yearly basis to deliver stuff to you. So there'll continue to be deliveries off of that, but you should see a steady drum of delivery happening within this space. And that's it for my time. I will be off in the corner here. If you've got questions, just come catch me at any time. I'll hang around for a while, but I think I've used up my time overall, unless you give us more time. It is totally up to you all.
We've got a couple minutes for quick questions if anyone's got anything urgent.
Yes. Just yell it out and I'll get it.
Sure. Around natural language
Yeah.
use cases within the business, is it either on or off from a security perspective? Like if I asked, please give me the average cost of work orders for reactive maintenance over the last 12 months, but I have multiple partners using the system and I don't want them to leverage that technology to expose the costs of other competitors. Mm-hmm. Is it either on and off? You've only got access to it, and if you or you don't have access to it, or does it leverage the existing security restrictions?
The latter. So what happens is a couple of things. So first of all, if I am a user, okay, and I want to use the assistant to go in and ask a question, it will only go to the data sources that I have security access to, all right? And so with it, it takes advantage of all the controls that I've already built into Maximo over the decades and all. It abides by those, and you can then also decide what users can also take advantage of it. So if I'm a user, I get access to it. I only have access to the data that I have security clearance for.
Down to the field level, or?
It is whatever granular level that, we use existing access controls. So whatever granularity you've gone to, it will abide by.
Thanks.
Yep. Yeah, I try to remember to say that when I'm in there, so I'll try to remember that next time. Other questions?
Everyone's hungry and all wants a coffee.
They are. The speaker before lunch is needed to get off the stage.
All right. Well, thank you.